In this video, I will show you how to create this shape here using, we're going to be using actually multiple features. We'll be using an extrude, two extrudes really, and then a revolved cut to create this circular part right here. Excuse me, these wavy lines. Go ahead and disregard this thread call out right here. Don't worry about these dotted lines. Those have to do with threads, which we're not worrying about quite yet in these tutorials. We'll just worry about how to create the basic shape of this bolt here. And so we'll do that, like I said, using two extrudes and a revolve cut. So we'll go ahead and sketch our extrudes real quick. We'll use the polygon tool and make sure that it's six-sided. Before I get ahead of myself, I do need to change into millimeters. I remember from the drawing, it says we're in millimeters. So I changed to millimeters. I go back into the sketch here and I can define the dimension here as 10 millimeters, and I need to make this horizontal just so I can fully define the sketch. And I should be good to go to extrude this. I'll extrude it up 3 millimeters based on our drawing. Okay. And so now I need to create the shaft portion of this. And I can see from my drawing that it just comes down and it's just a cylindrical shaft. Knowing what you know now based on how to create revolves, you could create this using sketching a rectangle here and then revolving it around the center axis. And that's totally fine. You can do that. That's not what I'm going to do. I prefer to sketch a circle and then extrude it just as a cylinder. The reason being is as I sketch this circle, I only have to define one thing. I just have to define the diameter of the circle. It's not like a rectangle where I have to define both the length and the width. So it's really saving me one step, and it is a minor step, so it doesn't really matter. It's really 6 in one, half dozen in the other. But for me, it's just what I prefer. So it's totally up to you. But I'm going to extrude that 7 millimeters, call that good. And then now we need to work on creating those, what I call wavy lines around the top. And the way that you do that is using an a revolved cut. This circle here, this 7 millimeter diameter circle, represents the beginning of that revolved cut. And what it is actually an arc that comes down and you revolve that shape around. And so you can accomplish that by doing a sketch here and making it tangent with the top real quick. And make sure you define that, again, that's 7 millimeters. Although we are working with a revolve, and so you have to divide everything by 2. So it's really going to be 3.5 millimeters. Don't divide everything by 2, sorry. Divide every diameter by 2 because we're doing a revolve. This is 9.25. And then we're going to throw in a construction line here as the center axis. You could do that, using the reference geometry here and creating an axis. And then I want to show you two things here. We're pretty much done. We just have to create this, do this revolve cut, which you'll see here isn't too difficult. But I want to show you two different techniques that people will use when doing something like this. One, and it's not the preferable one, at least for me, is something like this where they'll just kind of sketch outside and just create, a closed loop bounding it however they want, because they know that this isn't going to intersect, all this stuff out here isn't going to intersect their part, so they don't really care what it looks like. And while they're not wrong, I'll show you some issues you can run into if you do it like this. But real quick, let's just do the normal revolve cut. Using that shape, you can see that we have the desired shape as we had here. And so we're finished now, but again, I want to show you something. The reason I don't prefer this is because if I'm not careful about where I place these lines, you can see that if I cross that center line, my revolve cut fails. And in fact, if I try to exit this, we'll get an error. It's saying it intersects the center line, and that's exactly what's happening. It's because I wasn't careful about the way that I created this shape out here. And so for me, the preferable way, what I would rather do and what I would hope you would do is to just follow the outline of the part, because that will cut away everything you need to cut away without running the risk of having something going wrong or something that you don't expect happening. You can see the preview now is much smaller. It's a bit more condensed and more fine. In a part like this, it doesn't make a huge difference which way you do it, but I can tell from experience that it can cause issues down the road when you have more complicated parts. So I would encourage you to follow along these lines as closely as you can when you're just cutting around the outside like that using a revolve cut or even an extrude cut, whatever the case may be. Okay. So I hope that helps. I hope you're able to create this shape without too much trouble, and see that it matches here, this bolt that we have in the drawing.